But what I'm really interested in, that small data I was talking about, was those people who do nothing. They read it because I know that they're reading it. We can see within the period of the 7 days of the drill, but they leave it in their inbox. They're not even deleting it. Now, my ADHD brain can't deal with that because I don't understand you people, but I'm interested in why you're doing it. I'm also interested in the time of day that you're doing it, which device you're doing it from, because I think that's giving security teams much more interesting data.
Welcome back, everyone, to Cyber Voices, the official podcast of the Australian Information Security Association, also known as AISA. I am your host, David Savva-Willett, and it is my pleasure to bring to you the diverse voices of the Australian cyber community. I'm currently at the tail end of Canberra CyberConnect 2026, the first ever CyberConnect event here in the nation's capital. And joining me now is Ant Cohen. Ant has one of the most interesting job titles in the country. He is Head of Security Influence at NBN Co. Before working in cyber, Ant helped build some of the most iconic marketing campaigns that Australia has ever seen. I love this list, by the way. From Oprah's Australian Adventure to 25 Wallabies campervans touring New Zealand during the Rugby World Cup. Wow, that's a lot. To a gold medal winning campaign for the Australian Olympic and Paralympic teams in London. He now brings that storytelling firepower to security and sits on the New South Wales Crime Stoppers Cybersecurity Advisory Committee, amongst many, many other things. Today at CyberConnect, Ant delivered a talk from selling dreams to securing realities on bringing marketing smarts to human-centered cyber defense. If the conversation today resonates with you, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your app of choice to be notified when we bring new episodes, and do leave us a 5-star review. It helps others find the show. Hello, Ant.
Hello,
It's
Dave.
great to have you on.
Lovely to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. So, CyberConnect, 2 big days in Canberra. How have you found it?
It's been incredible. And they are packed couple of days. There is just so much and a track for everybody. I think that the thing that has really continues to surprise me, I'm only relatively new to the industry. I've been here for 6 years, which we'll touch on a little bit later on. But the depth of experience and passion and knowledge that is in these rooms, not only the speakers, but everybody who's attending and the conversations that you're having in the corridors, is just something that continually astounds me and impresses me every time I come to one of these events.
So your talk, from selling dreams to securing realities, marketing smarts for human-centered cyber defense.
It's a lot, isn't it? There's a lot of words.
It's surprised I didn't have to do 2 or 3 takes to get that out. What's all this about?
Yeah, really good question. At the crux of it, it's saying that I had a career that did some pretty interesting things and some really kind of droll marketing things, but made the shift from, instead of selling people things that they probably didn't need to begin with, they might have wanted it, to educating people about how to protect themselves. Kind of uses the same science and the same methodology, the same behavioral science. People are still motivated by the same kinds of things. I'm not putting Oprah or first class seats in front of them these days. I don't have budgets for that type of thing anymore. But still, I think that the work that we're trying to get people to do, and the practitioners in this space, protecting our organizations, protecting our communities and our families, is far more important. And really, that's what the talk was all about. How do you use those same kind of marketing skills to help people instead of giving them things that they didn't want?
Yeah. Just imagine Oprah in a phishing campaign or something. I'm just imagining, I'm having very vivid imagery now of sending a training email to someone, and it's Oprah telling you why you shouldn't click on the links.
I imagine it would be quite loud and in your face.
Yeah, exactly. And, in the only way that Oprah can do, and we love her for it. But from Oprah and the Wallabies to NBN's security influence. I love that job title, by the way. It's fantastic. Some might think that that's not a straight line. But interestingly, Ant, you are one of many people I've met who has come into cyber from a marketing background. There is a real origin story collective of people in this space. And I find it really fascinating. What was the moment that you realized that your marketing toolkit that you'd spent a career building was actually the missing ingredient in cybersecurity?
It's such a good question. And I agree. In fact, there was a whole table full of those people at my talk who kept nodding, and I was so grateful that they were there. They're my little fan club because we all speak the same language. It happened by accident that I ended up in here. I got a call from a former colleague who was in the cyber leadership at NBN and she contacted me to see if I knew somebody who might be able to help them, because the challenge that they had was security is often seen as the department of no, as a blocker. People weren't engaging early enough, weren't understanding the risks, and they really needed somebody, in their words, who understood marketing to maybe translate some of the technical into non-technical. And yet they couldn't find that right person because they kept getting very competent technical people applying for the role. Now, I looked at the job description and it had been written by a German IT security architect. It was neither in English or German, but it made no sense.
I bet it was very efficient.
Incredibly efficient, as only they could. But that was really the crux. And I thought, well, I was looking for an opportunity at the time, and I'm an ex-marketer, and I'd actually been at NBN previously in charge of the brand, colouring in department, I like to call it, a little lighthearted. So I knew the values, and they really resonated with me, and its mission and the importance of its mission. And so found myself coming into this whole unknown world, which, to what I was saying earlier about the people here in Canberra, has been the most remarkable community to have joined, the most welcoming and such smart people. And I think the hardest part for me was learning what you guys all do day to day and have perfected and do so incredibly well, and contributing in a very small way as a marketer and a non-technical person. But realizing within about 6 to 12 months that, as I was saying, those skills translate. We're just trying to influence people, and my title, head of security influence, that's all we're really trying to do, is influence people's behaviors and security hygiene, both inside and outside the business.
Yeah, well, because security awareness or influence, which it is such a unique spin on it, it does have a bit of a well-deserved reputation for being a little boring. Sometimes condescending, sometimes both. What does the marketer's lens tell you that the cyber awareness industry has been getting fundamentally wrong?
That's a hard question, and I don't want to offend anybody, because I think it does a lot that is right. However, you're right. I think that it can be seen, the awareness space can be seen as boring. It can be seen as intrusive. We're pushing training on you. We're pushing awareness, phishing drills, metrics. And we do hear a lot from the business saying, I'm busy enough with critical incidents, I don't need this distracting me. I think that, putting it in the simplest sense, what we've been focusing on is an oversupply of supply.
No.
There's an an indulgence of awareness and phishing exercises and compulsory training and metrics reporting. And what we really haven't focused on is building the demand. So, an economist would look at this and go, well, what you've typically been doing in awareness is diminishing returns. We call it Tuesday, and it's our everyday work, right? So we need to reframe it and think, well, how do we speak to the people that we need to influence, to the title that we have, in ways that's going to resonate with them, make it personal, and have them act and react in a positive way, as opposed to, oh God, this is another compliance exercise that I have to do and get through it as fast as I can.
Yeah. And I've been getting that feedback myself a lot lately. It's almost like, I get it, I'm not supposed to click on bad links, but the stuff you're sending me is just distracting me and annoying the absolute shit out of me.
100%.
Yeah. So how do you approach that? How do we go from being that annoying little irritating fly buzzing around everyone's head to actually influencing people?
It's a great question. It's a hard journey. And it takes, I think, a multidimensional approach and really understanding who the audience is. So as a marketer, I want to know who is my audience. And it's the same question that I've been asking my entire career. It's no different to security. So what matters to them and what language do they speak, as opposed to me assuming that security, as important it is to me, to you, and to the listeners, it may not be as important to people that we need to communicate with. So what actually does make a difference, and what changes the dial or pushes the dial for them? I'm a big believer in small data, and I spoke about it in my chat today. And big data will tell us movements, and then they'll tell us trends, and small data will tell us why it's actually happening. So if I look at the phishing results, and yes, we have to do phishing drills because from a compliance point of view, we need to do it, and we'll know that it's a necessary evil in some ways. And I'll report on the reporting rate and the click and the compromise. But what I'm really interested in, that small data I was talking about, was those people who do nothing. They read it because I know that they're reading it. We can see within the period of the 7 days of the drill, but they leave it in their inbox. They're not even deleting it. Now, my ADHD brain can't deal with that because I don't understand you people, but I'm interested in why you're doing it. I'm also interested in the time of day that you're doing it, which device you're doing it from, because I think that's giving security teams much more interesting data. We can then, as an influence team, try and craft messages or drills, or even just sit down and find out more about, well, why are you actioning something at 8 p.m. on the Tuesday before Christmas? Why are you doing something when you've got an out of office? What is it about culturally that we need to address there to reduce the risk potentially based on those other insights beyond phishing metrics?
Yeah. I want to dive into the whole phishing simulation thing a little bit with you, because I imagine you've probably got some opinions on these, because something you said just then highlights something that I think has become a little bit problematic about phishing drills in general. You mentioned necessary evil, and we do them because of compliance, right? So when we first started doing them, it was this great revolution. I remember the first time someone came to me and said, yeah, we're doing this and we're going to test people and see if they click on the link. And oh my God, almost half the organization did it. Shock, horror. And it was quite revolutionary, but it's been, I reckon we've been doing these for 10 years now? At least. Users are tired of it amongst everything else that they've got to do. I mean, how tenable do you think phishing simulations are as a tool, like, moving forward?
I think, it depends a lot on who you're going to ask. There's obviously a whole industry built in it. And you're right, we've been doing it for a long time and they served a purpose. And it comes down to the same old argument, whether you're running hot or whether you're running cold as a user, as a human being. And you know this from SOC experiences and incidents. The decisions that we make in a simulation or during a tabletop or even in training are very different to when you're in the heat of the moment. So when you're cold and you're logical and you're aware of everything that's coming into your vision, you'll make a very different decision. In the heat of the moment, you might make something different. And I think that the fear is that phishing drills have created this tepid water instead. We're mixing the hot and the cold and we're just annoying a whole lot of people. We need to do them from a compliance point of view for various controls frameworks. Most of us, for our cyber insurance, requires that we attest to some sort of phishing metric.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, the HRM space still relies on phishing metric in order to create a large part of the dashboard. But I think we're going to have to rethink them in a very serious way very, very quickly, particularly as things like phish-resistant MFA come in. And whilst we talk about AI has certainly removed the Nigerian prince and it's harder to spot phishing drills, our traditional phishing drills don't account for things like embedded PDFs and social engineering and other vectors that threat actors are now using.
Hey, sorry to interrupt the interview. I know you're loving it, but a quick word before I let you get back to it. I just want to let you know that every year, AISA's events bring together the people shaping cybersecurity across Australia, the practitioners, leaders, and decision makers your organisation wants to be in front of. We offer a range of exhibition and branding opportunities to reach them across our Sec Day conferences nationwide and, of course, at CyberCon, our flagship event held each October. CyberCon is one of the country's largest cybersecurity gatherings, bringing together over 5,000 attendees, 400 expert speakers, and 150 exhibitors all under the one roof, making it the premier platform to showcase your organisation and connect with industry leaders. To explore a partnership, get in touch with our national events and sponsorship manager, Susanna Palermo, at sponsorship@aisa.org.au. And if you would like to reach this same audience every week, sponsorship opportunities for the podcast you're listening to are also available. Anyway, let's get back on with the show. That's why, organizations like NBN are lucky to have people like yourselves who are driving that security engagement and security influence, because, you mentioned there insurers want you to tick the box and say that you do phishing drills, but are they diving into what you actually do with follow-up around those drills and how you actually use the information and the data you get out of them? Something that stuck with me just then as well is what you mentioned about the people who do nothing. That actually really kind of just made something click in my own brain, because I spend personally, I spend so much time reporting and acting on the people who are compromised and also congratulating the people who reported.
Mm.
But the bigger gap is the people who've done absolutely nothing.
And they're a large proportion.
Yeah. I mean, look, and if they're just deleting and going, yep, cool, whatever, or they just know it's me.
That does happen, yep.
Yeah, but I mean, I think there's probably a whole podcast in trying to unpack that in on itself. I'm thinking now, though, you talk as well about moving organizations from compliance to culture, right? We just talked big about phishing simulations, and there's so much more to security engagement and education than just doing a simulation. But making it part of the culture, what does behavior change for you actually look like when it's working? And I think for your CISO, how do you help your CISO track that as a metric on a dashboard? Because that's, as a CISO myself, that's what I'm always looking for is where's my little temperature gauge?
Yeah, and that is, I think, the golden nugget that we're all after. And there's a variety of different things, I suppose, that we're doing. Like a lot of organizations, we've got a champions network to try and build those credible voices and ambassadorship across the organization. Increasing in SOC reports and increases in suspected phishing campaigns is something that we're looking at, and the decrease in that do nothing rate, I think culturally is a really good temperature check, and that's something we're really going to focus on in the next financial year as well. We've started that. So less focus on those clicks, but actually also explaining to people what happens behind the scenes when you do report something. Whether you think it's a drill, whether you think that it's actually real or it's completely benign, that it actually creates a ticket and there is a human or there is a process at least that looks at it. And we've all got examples from different industries where something malicious has made its way in, because I think that one of the challenges we face in the awareness space, in the culture space particularly, is that, and especially in larger organizations that have complex cybersecurity functions, is that the average employee figures we've got a lot of people in security, they've got a lot of tech. I don't know what it is, but they've got tech. And so if something ends up in my inbox, it must be safe because presumably it's the quarantine's working and people are looking out for me. So what's the harm in what I'm going to do? And I think that there's certainly truth in that. We've got really hardworking teams who use the tools. But as we know, the threat actors are getting more sophisticated and things do slip through. And we need our people to be aware that if you see something, you say something, but conversely, culturally within inside security, we're working on making sure that we listen when somebody says something and we acknowledge it back. So I think what you just said there was really important and is a missing link in a lot of programs, is thanking people for reporting, acknowledging that they've done that and encouraging them to continue to do that really builds a positive culture.
Yeah. And it can be anything from just a nice reply email at the end of the simulation, which I did at the end of my last simulation. And I've worked for smaller organizations where there's less people, where we've gone and dropped a cookie on or a chocolate bar or something like that on people's desks, right? Like if you work for an organization small enough to do that, or I think once at Easter time, we went and placed Easter eggs on the table of everyone who had reported it. I imagine a big part of a role like yours, though, is being able to actually talk to people within the organization. How much of your role is actually going out and engaging with people directly versus people actually coming to you to get advice?
Yeah, there's a large proportion, and inside and outside the organization as well. So I often say we've got an 80-20 rule, and most of my time is spent engaging with the broader business and finding out what's on their mind, educating them about security and security hygiene, but also the support services that we offer, breaking down some of those barriers. So as I said, 6 years ago, known as the Department of No, very secretive, behind a secure area and authorized access only. It's breaking down some of those stereotypes and going out there to meet people where they're at and talking about examples of how different threat actors are approaching them. Because also it's not necessarily about somebody wanting to get access to what we call the active network or the actual NBN itself. It might be somebody trying to infiltrate or exfiltrate data from human resources or from a finance point of view, and really articulating to people across the business that they have a role to play and they're privileged just by simply being able to get into the building and having a role with us, and that everybody carries a responsibility with them. But back to the 80-20, we also have spent a lot of time in community, or working at least with our local representatives, our community representatives, and helping educate the public around scams awareness in particular, and especially in remote communities and for older Australians who, as we know, often get targeted.
I imagine that must be really rewarding as well.
It is, absolutely. And when it makes a difference, I think last year ScamWatch reported a 45% reduction in NBN scams. I mean, we're like any big brand in Australia, we're impersonated. And so getting
very common, yeah.
Yeah, incredibly common. But seeing a reduction in that, helping educate community people, it's all part of our broader mission to connect the nation and do it safely and securely.
Yeah, and that must be such a rewarding metric, though, because knowing threat actors, they switch tactics when the tactic's clearly not working very well anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're getting them to be more and more creative, that's a great success metric. You're right.
How have you gone about making you and your team more approachable for people to actually want to come to you? Because that's often, I find, the hardest part. Sometimes just security showing up and being like, hey, we're actually here.
Yeah, we're actually human.
That can be enough. But how have you addressed that challenge?
A lot like that. None of my team are professional security techie people, and everybody comes from a similar background to myself or community or product. And I think it's just being authentic and making ourselves available. We definitely lean on the Champions program quite a lot and share back of house stories with them. We share a lot of humor. We're very transparent and we try to be as authentic as possible. And it's at a point now, I think, where we're certainly seeing more and more business units coming to us and saying, hey, that was really interesting what you did for networks or for operations. How does that apply over here in HR? Is there a way you could come and talk to us about that? And that's something that we're working on at the moment. So I don't know. I think it's marketing talks about reach and frequency a lot. And I think it's exactly the same. You keep going into whatever channels you can, being present, being available, and being consistent.
No. And something that was really surprising to me, just talking to you now, is I want to go back to your previous answer to the other question. You were talking about the 80-20 rule, was that responsibility to the broader community. I often sit down for these interviews with a bit of a clear view or a preconception of what we're going to talk about. And I learned today, that how remarkable it is that you get out into the community to help with scams and scam awareness around the NBN, because, the NBN reaches into pretty much every home in Australia for the most part, which is a remarkable platform for security messaging, I guess. I guess if you could maybe just give us a little bit more information on how you're using that at scale. I want to tap into this a little bit more and the responsibility that's coming with that.
Yeah, the responsibility is enormous. If you start to look at the numbers, I think it's something like 85% of data packets that are sent across the country every single day go via the NBN. So there's an enormous responsibility to the economy, to healthcare, to defense, to small business, community, and families. So you want to, make sure that it is safe, it is secure, and it is certainly one of our priorities. We take it down to a lot of basics in terms of community engagement and awareness. There's only 4 of us in my team, so we certainly can't be out across the nation. We work really closely with our community affairs partners. We've got a part of the NBN called NBN Local that go out into regional and rural communities. They do lots of sessions out in community, in local libraries, with the Country Women's Association and so forth. We take the data that ScamWatch, as an example, provide us around who are the communities or the demographics that are most being targeted. So say the over 65 population or anybody who is not as digitally savvy. And we create easily consumable content that's not new to probably most listeners around making sure that you're only clicking on trusted sources, how to look for the red flags, making sure that you take yourself off channel to verify via official contact numbers if you are approached by somebody. And the more sophisticated the scams are getting, I suppose the more detailed some of that information needs to be around who you can trust and how to verify with trusted members of your family or community.
Excellent. And I guess to wrap us up, you spoke to a big room of cyber leaders here at CyberConnect today who are not marketers.
Mm-hmm.
And like myself, I don't have the pleasure of having a recovering marketer on my team. What is the one thing that people should be borrowing from that marketing playbook when they rock back up to work on Monday morning?
Yeah, and there's only a few of us in the 12-step program of recovering marketers, as I joke. Again, I think it's learn about your audience. And as important as the world is, our security world, and keeping people safe, learn the language that they speak and look for those cues and the clues that are important to them. And in doing so, you've got a better chance, I think. We all have a better chance of being able to permeate those walls without looking like we're a distraction, without looking like we're an annoyance, and really getting their buy-in to understand how it impacts them and how their security, hygiene and their engagement with us and our teams will really help them deliver on their targets.
Yeah. Meet that target audience where they are, right?
Absolutely.
It's all about people. And that is fantastic. I know you have a flight to catch soon. at the point of recording, we are at 4 p.m. on the second day and does have to get back to Sydney. So thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you come be here at CyberConnect and deliver this message to our members here. And thank you so much for sharing your voice with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure being here and talking to you as well.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Cyber Voices. Our music is by Sanar Garut, our show artwork is by Studio Quarantine, and we record our show at This Is a Studio in Pran, Melbourne, part of Popplant Productions. Please make sure you follow the show on your podcast platform of choice and leave us a 5-star review. This will help others find the show. Also, please follow the association on LinkedIn and Instagram. If you want to add your voice to our ever-growing chorus of diverse cyber voices, have questions, feedback, or would like to be a sponsor, you can do so by emailing us at cybervoices@aisa.org.au. That's cybervoices@aisa.org.au. Are you an AISA member? If not, you should consider joining our network of over 12,000 members across Australia. An AISA membership can open doors, build professional networks, create lifetime friendships, and offer exclusive training, events, and other perks. Become a member today by heading to our website at aisa.org.au. That is all for today. I hope you will join us again next time on Cyber Voices.